The Creator is a new sci-fi action film that is now playing in theaters and is a small stepping stone in the sci-fi genre before we get to check out Dune Part 2 next year in 2024. Ultimately, what did I think about The Creator and should you be checking it out? Well, stick around and let's talk about it. Against the backdrop of a war between humans and robots with artificial intelligence, a former soldier finds a secret weapon, a robot in the form of a young child. The film stars John David Washington, Madeline Yuna Boyles, Gemma Chan, and Allison Janney, and many others, and was directed by Gareth Edwards, and he's done films like Star Wars, Rogue One, and also 2014's Godzilla. The Creator was a film, when I first saw the trailer, I was like, okay, this looks visually very well done. I think that I will definitely like the visuals in this film. It seemed like it would be a big blockbuster kind of film, the way that it was shot, and I was very excited to check out this film. It starts in 2065. There has been a explosion and a bombing that has happened in LA, and they blame AI for actually doing this. The US, they build a new tech toy called Nomad, who basically just goes around and sweeps the area of trying to find these AI people. And there is this war going on between AI and humans. Meanwhile, we have a main character played by John David Washington. His character name is Joshua, and he is this man that used to be a soldier, and they are using him to try to find this new tech that AI is developing, and they want him to destroy it. Starting off with my positives of this film, I think the visuals of this film is done pretty well. It's very simple, yet it's very pleasing to the eye. The action of this film is done rather well. It definitely reminded me of Star Wars, and even though I haven't seen Rogue One, and I've only seen 2 Star Wars films, and I know that's a complete crime to the Star Wars fandom out there, but I've never seen any of those films other than just the first 2. And with this film, it definitely reminded me of Star Wars. It seemed like it would be like a prequel to Star Wars or something like that. And the visuals and a lot of the things that were involved in this film, it definitely picked from other kinds of sci-fi films, which I was okay with. The soundtrack of this film, it's very precise and delicate. It isn't overpowering, and it didn't feel like it was very over the top. It wasn't like really crazy kind of sound. It just was kind of there, and it just flowed with the film. The characters overall, I think between the little girl and John David Washington's character, I think those are the 2 characters that we're trying to connect with throughout this film, and I will say that I didn't really connect with either character throughout this film. With John David Washington's character, he does have a little bit of background, specifically with a wife that he had. They do kind of incorporate a little bit of his story and a little bit of love moments within that woman, but it's coursed through so fast that it's a little bit hard to connect with his story. The editing of this movie, it can be very choppy at times and kind of jumping from place to place, in which you don't know everything that's really going on with the different placement of where they put you in this film. There was a lot of exposition in this film, and I felt like a lot of the characters that they threw into this film, I really didn't really care about them, and I didn't find them very interesting. I felt like a lot of the action kind of took over in this film, and there was more action than I thought there would be. I thought there would be less action, but I think the action in this film, it's really nice, and it really makes you kind of get into what's going on in this war between AI and human. And visually, this film, it looks really good, and you can look at this film and be like, oh, that looks really cool and that looks cool. But the story for this film, it definitely is really lacking, especially within the 3rd act of this film. I had questions where you have the Nomad ship that they actually built, the humans that is, and I felt like, why is this ship so great? Why is this whole ship the whole main concourse of the humans to really take over AI? And I felt like with that ship, it just seemed like there were certain things in this film where it's not really all the way explained all the time. There's certain things that the little girl can do, specifically with her powers, where she can kind of take over and take control. And then there's other times in this film where she can't do certain things, and you're just like, well, why is that? and they never explained that. Just felt myself kind of checking out a little bit from the plot itself. It just seemed like there were more things that were coming up, and I had like more questions that I wanted answered, and they just don't go that route. They just kind of skim over it with tons of exposition. The characters, especially like our main character, I should say, they have a lot of montages to really tell the story, which it doesn't really go too much into like the emotions of like what you should feel with this character. I felt like there was just something missing to make us really feel for the main character. I think also with this film, because it is an original film, it's very hard to get people to go out to a theater and see something like this. We always complain that we want something original, and then when something original comes out, people are complaining and trying to compare it to other movies. And I feel like if you're always trying to do that, you can never really enjoy a movie. And there's always something when you watch a movie that you can compare it to another movie, but I think a lot of the ideas for movies, there's a lot of inspiration from other movies, and I think this film, it borrows from a lot of inspirations from other movies, and it's trying to tell a story between a battle of humans and AI. And I think also with this story, it really does paint the picture of us humans being the bad guy, because in this film we have all the weapons, and this fictional territory, New Asia, which all the AI bots are actually stationed at, they are pretty much defenseless throughout this film. They don't have the weapons, and they really want to make peace with the humans. But I think the humans here, they just see them as this big threat, and they blame them for this big nuclear bombing that happened in LA. And that's really the big plot of this film. And you just see this war going on, but really a war where AI just doesn't really want to fight, and they don't really want to be involved in this friction between both sides. And you see where the humans here just act really selfish, and they just become very complacent with what they're trying to do. And then you see the AI here, they just really are at a loss, because what can they do? You have these humans that just refuse to really accept them for who they are, and because they're different, they feel very threatened by this technology, and they feel like these robots, they are just fully equipped to just destroy them at any point. And that's what the humans believe throughout this film. But overall, like the main protagonist here, you having John David Washington, he's not a big actor. And I think because he's not really a big draw, a lot of people didn't really like Tenet. I think that really hurts this film, and it really hurts people from wanting to go out to a theater and check this film out. It didn't make a lot of money at the box office, so that really shows that people don't have that much of an interest. And it was kind of shocking to me at first, because I was thinking to myself, well, this looks really big. I would figure that people would want to see this. But then I thought again, okay, well, it's original, and people, they usually like more established kind of IPs and such like that, and this isn't an established type thing. So because this is an original piece, people are not willing to check this film out. But there are plenty of trailers that really did show the story, so if you really weren't sure, there was plenty of that actual promotion with those actual trailers that would get you into this kind of film. But I think also with promotion, even though there is like 2 or 3 trailers for this film, there wasn't a lot of outside marketing besides that. And a lot of people, I don't even think, knew this movie actually existed with all the strike and everything like that. So that definitely hurt this film overall. As far as a score for this film, I would give it a 3 out of 5. I like the visuals. I think the story is lacking a little bit. I definitely wanted to connect a little bit more to the characters. Outside the 2 main characters, there's really nobody else to really connect with. Story-wise, I wasn't exactly bored, but I was checking out that third act. Overall, for me, I would give it a 3 out of 5. I think visually it's done really well, and the action is really fun, but I wanted to connect more with the 2 main characters, and even more characters throughout this film, and it's just a miss in that department. And I think the story could have been polished up a little bit more, and maybe where they could have extended the movie a little bit more, or maybe actually editing it down a little bit more. But it's just hard to tell because this is kind of all over the place, and I'm very mixed on how I feel about this movie. I definitely want to give it a rewatch at some point. I don't think it's a movie that I would purchase, but I do want to check it out at a later date. But let me know in the comments, what did you think about The Creator? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? If you haven't seen it, are you going to check it out in a theater, or are you going to wait for VOD? Thank you guys for watching this review, and I will see you guys on my next review.